So this one is very specific around SASE. So Michael is joining us from Netscope. Michael is Asia Pacific CTO for Netscope, and he'll be talking about the SASE roadmap, what it is delivering currently and what the future holds for SASE technology. That's what the agenda for today's discussion is, today's session is. As you see on the agenda, it's a quick welcome from 11:01 to 11:05. We are not doing the quiz today, right? Traditionally, what we do is we start the session and we get into the quiz, which is fastest finger first. We are not doing quiz. Why? Because we have a Kahoot quiz at the end, right? So there will be about 6 questions and we will pick 3 winners out of the attendees. So be attentive while you are attending the session. The questions are going to be from the session itself, right? Whatever Michael is going to talk about, that's where the questions have been designed for Kahoot. So pay attention, take good notes from the session. And then we will run till about 11:50 with the session. And at the end, we will keep about 10 minutes for Q&A. So if you want to ask live questions, you can raise your hand and at the end, we will take the questions. But during the session, if you have any questions, so what you can do is you can put your question in the Q&A tab. Okay, do not put your question in the chat window, put it on the Q&A tab. And then we have panelists from Netscope team, Gaurav, Brijesh, Gurinder, they are there. And they will answer your questions during the session is going on, right? That's what you can do. And at the end, I will share the secret to download your participation certificate. Wheel of Fortune, very interestingly, this time is Apple AirPods, and it is not restricted to first 100 registrations, right? We will put everyone, whoever has registered in the Wheel of Fortune. And then at the end, we will do Wheel of Fortune and pick one lucky winner. We will also have 3 Kahoot winners. So as I mentioned, at the end, we will have Kahoot quiz. So we will pick 3 winners and Netscope will give away one nice hamper, nice gift hamper for the winners. And then registration will be open for next week. Session is being recorded. We will get the slides. Everything will be posted on Elite CISO's website and YouTube channel. Now, as you know, if you have been attending Elite CISO's session, what comes next is stand and attend, right? This is a challenge we give every week. Apart from running the cybersecurity events, collaboration within community, Elite CISO is also very much focused on fitness, right? We have a very active fitness group. Many of the CIOs, CISOs who are participating, they have taken a 325 days of fitness challenge, right? We started on 1st Jan 2021, and we said out of 365 days, 325 days, we will do some kind of fitness activity. So we have a dedicated yoga group and fitness group as well. So as we drive fitness, one of the important thing is, how your posture is. If you are going to sit for the entire day while you are going to office or working from home in a pandemic situation, we are sitting a lot. And being Saturday, you might be lying down a lot instead of even sitting, right? So if you sit a lot, you might have all these problems, weak abs, heart disease and everything. And moreover, you will have a foggy brain. You are attending a session. It's a tsunami of webinars which is going on. Whatever Michael is going to talk about, if you have a foggy brain, you will not be able to capture this and you will not be able to win in the Kahoot quiz. Okay, guys. So what I propose is you go ahead and stand, like I'm also standing. If you stand, you will think sharper. And once you think sharper, you will be able to participate and win in the Kahoot quiz as well. Okay, having said that, there is no quiz. I give you guys this challenge to stand while you are attending this session. Go to the chat and type yes if you are going to accept this challenge. So I see a lot of people have already said yes, standing, yes, very good. I love this energy that goes through. Awesome. So a lot of people have taken this challenge, and this challenge is to everyone in the panel member as well. Okay, guys, so if you want to attend, if you want to present while attending, while you're presenting, if you want to stand, go ahead and do that. I see a lot of people are saying yes. Great, guys. Okay. With this, because there is no quiz, I'm transferring it over to Michael for this session. Take good notes, guys. Okay. Over to you, Michael.
Hey guys, thank you so much for the warm welcome. That is fantastic. And I definitely agree with the sentiment of standing up. I've been out running, so I'm just going to sit for a while because I've just come back for a run. But look, I really do appreciate this time, and to have so many people here to listen to us talk, I think that's really fantastic. So hopefully I've got something interesting to share with you. And I really do agree with the amount of chat that's going on, because I want this to be interactive. I'm actually trying something for the first time here. We've been thinking a lot about SASE. I mean, we were leading the charge. We've been leading the charge for a long time in Netscope. But we want to know where it's going. Like, where are your businesses going? And I think I've got something that might be of value to you. But it's not, these are my opinions. These are our opinions at Netscope. We are, this is an ever-changing field. So if you've got thoughts, opinions, I want to hear them. I want to hear the things that you, the challenges that you are facing, and the technologies you think that should be part of SaaS. Because what we're seeing is convergence. SASE was a term that was started by Gartner in 2019 as the convergence of network and security teams, because they were all meeting, they all had the same challenge. Our applications are highly distributed now, whether it's SaaS applications, PaaS applications, IaaS applications, or private networks, highly distributed set of applications and services, and a highly distributed set of users working from the office, branch offices, managed devices, unmanaged devices, BYOD, everything, and working geographically dispersed. So the network teams are all about creating connectivity to those applications, and then security is there to provide the security and access controls to those connections. So what we need is consistent, fast, secure connectivity to all of our applications ubiquitously from wherever we are. And that's how we Gartner started it, was this merger, this convergence of network and security functions to support that one need, connecting users and devices to those services. And they did have those main components: SD-WAN, Firewall as a Service, Secure Gateway, CASB, and ZTNA. So that's a convergence in and of itself. But earlier this year, they actually said, well, we're going to split this so that we can make logical sense of this change. So there are these two components now. It used to be called, like in the early days, there was network as a service and then security as a service. They've just given it the this name, Security Service Edge. That's the product family that's being created. And again, it's a convergence of multiple different technologies: Secure Gateway, CASB, ZTNA or VPN, Firewall as a Service, RBI, Remote Browser Isolation, Encryption, Decryption. But there's loads of others in there as well. CSPM, SSPM, and a bunch of others. So it's this converged set of security controls in one single platform, this one single entity. And there's actually going to be a new Magic Quadrant out about this that is really exciting for everyone. So, definitely keep your eyes peeled for that. But it means, again, the CASB and the Secure Gateway Magic Quadrants, Secure Gateway is one of the longest running, and the CASB is one of the newest. Those are going to be depreciated, and this new SSE Magic Quadrant is going to come out soon. So it's really interesting time within security. And I really, what fascinates me, I think, is thinking strategically, what else? If we're converging capabilities, what else could we put into this little bracket? What other things are we going to need in the future? And that's the same with the WAN edge services that combines the network, network as a service. That's going to require, of course, SD-WAN to connect to our branch offices, but then all of those network capabilities, optimization, quality of service, acceleration, user experience, etc., etc. What's going to be in there as well? So that's really where we're going to talk about. So this is what we're looking at. This is the platform. This is the landscape that we're looking at the moment. On the left here, we've got the users and devices. We need to understand the identities, what the devices are, whether they're managed, they're unmanaged. We might have industries that have OT services. They're going to be accessing from multiple different browsers and applications, thick clients, command line interface, all of these different applications on multiple different services, and even email going through to our data, these applications and our infrastructure. And it's these multiple different locations that they're going to be going to. And there's this entity in the middle that connects them now, because they could be SaaS applications. I think it's about 60% of your applications now are going to be pure SaaS plays, which just shows the high variety of destination points that our applications or our data could be going. And we need to try and make sense of that, as well as making sure that the nasty things that are outside of the internet aren't allowed in to these different various locations. So that means things like access controls, based on your organizational policy, complete visibility into all of that traffic. We can't have gaps. We have to send all of that traffic through all ports and protocols. And then threat intelligence, data intelligence, understanding what data types and all that. And that was the thinking. That's what we're trying to deliver here. And to make sense of it, we think of this as a transactional controls. These are all the transactional controls of what we're looking at, as it's going through. And that's really where SSE plays really nicely, is what's going back and forth between those applications and those endpoints. But then there's like the at-rest configuration, because if it's in infrastructure as a service or in our SaaS environments, Microsoft 365 or Salesforce, we still have a responsibility on that data and how it's being used and how those environments, our tenancies, are configured and managed, and where the risks are, what the workflows are, what the containers are like inside of infrastructure as a service, and they should be up to standard, and we need to be able to observe the flow of data in those environments. And that means having an understanding of what the at-rest configuration is like. Then we have to have connectivity. So how do I connect all of these components? How does that all work out? And then we have to understand the device, make sure the device is valid. We have to understand that really, we want to know that the right person, how do I know that that individual is the human being clicking the button, clicking the mouse, typing the keys to send that transaction, who's dragging a file? And I need to have very high confidence in that. So all of those things in the device section are all about having confidence in the device, that the right person is making the right connections on a safe device through to the data. And then we have to sanitize the destination and make sure that these are built to the right locations. If you're building applications and data and infrastructure yourselves, it's how do we ensure that they are built to the right standards as well. And this is where the security service edge component fits in. So what I've done is I've made these two sections in orange here. So what we do is we think about this as the SSC or security service edge component. And there's two sections to this. There's first the transactional. I want to see all of that traffic going through. And then I want to make sure that my infrastructure, the parts that I'm responsible for, are configured to the best of my ability. So let's focus on the transactional for a second. Ultimately, we know that the vast majority of that traffic is going over the internet, because most of it's going to the internet. We go to SaaS applications, externally connecting over the internet. We know that our VPNs are connecting from our users and devices through the internet to connect to my data centers and branch offices and my infrastructure. So it makes sense that from a starting perspective, what we do is with this entity must contain secure web gateway because it's over the internet, but it has to quickly evolve and can't be static and think that we're only going to cricket news websites. That's not going to be sufficient today. Well, this is a connected tissue. The internet is a connected tissue to our data and our applications. So CASB becomes really critical to this, which means that we have to understand all the different applications that we're accessing. We have to understand which applications people are accessing. We have to understand the risks of those applications. That might mean having huge libraries of SaaS applications with understanding of what compliance certifications those applications have, what data center standards they're built to, what the terms and conditions are, whether or not they've been breached recently. And that allows the administrator to try to make a decision on where which applications people should be allowed to access. And maybe when users are accessing the riskier applications, the non-sanctioned ones, we actually want to provide coaching to say, hey, did you know that we offer a sanctioned version? We offer OneDrive or Salesforce or ServiceNow, Slack, whatever apps you're using that you've sanctioned, you've chosen to use, those are the ones to use. That's a teachable moment. That's part of your security awareness training. And that's hyper important when we think about just this huge change in the way that our organizations have been working. So that's really important. Then we have to understand that whilst there's thousands of applications out there, we're all really using the same ones, those key ones I mentioned: Microsoft, Google, Salesforce, Slack, ServiceNow, AWS. These are the applications that we use. And that's the problem, because if I'm using the same application as you, you can't say that that application is sanctioned and then upload all of your data to my instance of that application. You know, I have OneDrive. So if I send you a link to say, hey, could we just work on this project? You're going to do a Netscope project, and I'm going to send you some information. That's valid. That's a valid connection because we're collaborating. But the problem is that if I then said to you, your users, hey, could you just upload that contractual information, those board meeting minutes? That's a no-go. That's really important that we understand that we enable the access to multiple tenancies, but have different policies based on that. And that's the CWPP piece. Understanding APIs inline and applying different controls makes it nice and easy for you to understand where the risk might be. And then, of course, data protection, DLP, understanding industry and regional specific compliance type data, national identity numbers, credit card information, medical numbers. All of that's, you know, for regional specific stuff, that's really important. We say we can have, I want visibility when somebody starts to upload multiple national identity numbers or medical details to a non-corporate instance. We're using the instance stuff with the DLP now to get some really strong, interesting visibility into where the risk might be. And then we want to understand how to apply things like machine learning to that, because there's different industries have different data types that are really important. They could be merger and acquisitions, patent documents, NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. And these are all in different formats. You can't really say, this any just key language. It has to, you have to understand what that document is. And machine learning is really good at understanding that. And they're saying that those types of documents, again, can be uploaded to my corporate instance, but maybe can't to my non-corporate ones. So that's very important there as well. And maybe start to apply some of those controls. But then, as I said, we're also using the internet to connect to my private networks, my private applications via VPN. So it doesn't make sense to split the traffic and have multiple streams of traffic going everywhere. So why don't I use this to connect to my private applications? I connect my users or my networks to this cloud-based entity, and then it can connect to your infrastructure and your applications that are sitting internally. And then we can start to apply the same controls. So say Michael Ferguson can have access to this one application internally, not the entire network. So it actually becomes a much more secure approach. That's the ZTNA component of SSE. And what's cool about this is now I've got visibility into all applications and all my users are accessing SaaS, private applications, infrastructure as a service, and I can see all transactions. So I can start to see who's misbehaving, who's doing weird things like bulk downloading of files, who's sharing credentials with people and logging into Salesforce with somebody else's account. That's really important to then have behavioral risk scores on each user so that I can then apply risk-based policies. So when somebody starts moving data from a corporate to a non-corporate instance, sharing credentials and doing some odd behaviors, then I can actually cut off their access to private applications. It's adaptive. It's real-time adaptive context-based policy sets based on your users' behaviors to lower the risk for you. And then we can do all other things like all firewall as a service. I want to do all ports and protocols. That's really important. I want to do things like remote browser isolation so that if risky websites are accessed, I can say you can access it, but nothing's ever going to be downloaded because that is isolated in a separate environment. And that's really important as well. And then, of course, experience monitoring. I want to see what things are going across. And these are some of the things that are already embedded in SSE. These are the things, obviously with firewall as a service, we get DNS security. That's important. Intrusion detection and intrusion prevention systems are very important to see vulnerabilities in connections. And then, as I mentioned, the AI, machine learning, DLP. And then, of course, advanced analytics. If I'm seeing everything, I can get some really interesting operational analytical reporting to my users, to my administrators, based on what people are doing. So that's the transactional piece. And that's SSE as it is at the moment. I think that's really powerful and really important. You can get started quite easily by going with secure gateway first or private access and build this out as required. But let's look at this at-rest piece, because as we know, we've signed up to Microsoft 365 and Salesforce and AWS. So what we want to do is make sure that they're configured and they're safe. The configuration at rest is up to the standards we would expect if we were building, installing file servers and databases in our local networks. So we want to make these API connections into those systems, into those services, into your specific tenant of those services, and then to apply rules based on compliance, things like NIST, SIS, benchmarking, best practices, those types of policies. So PCI DSS is another really strong one. So I can make sure that when it comes to being audited, these systems, this infrastructure is configured to the right standard that we would expect, and give us reports on where we need to tweak things. Maybe I've got the root administrator is still enabled on certain servers. Maybe I've got external access is available from over certain ports. These kind of configurations are really important. We'd want to be able to make sure that we can configure those. And that's the same for infrastructure as a service, which is the CSPM, Cloud Security Posture Management. And then same with our SaaS environments. I mean, Microsoft's a critical part of our infrastructure now. It houses all of our sensitive data, and we want to make sure that these are configured to the right standards as well. That's SaaS, Security Posture Management, or Software Security Posture Management. And these are actually one of the biggest reasons. Not having these, or having non-configured and non-hardened environments in our infrastructure, is actually one of the biggest causes of data breaches at the moment. So that's really important to know. And then, of course, making sure that the APIs and our data is sitting inside the right locations. So that's SSE. But then we've got the WAN service edge, which is delivering the connectivity, the SD-WAN, the optimization quality of service. It's going from those networks, sending that traffic through, whether it's any device in a network. But there's other capabilities out there, right? That's what we're looking at the moment. This is the landscape right now. In 2021, if you went out and you wanted to have this is available. All this is available right now. But we have to start asking ourselves, there's other capabilities out there, right? There's other things. And I put down some vendors that I know are out there, and just some of the capabilities that they've got. And I think it's really interesting to start thinking. And I want your feedback. I'd love to sit here, have some people ask some questions later on if I've missed things, because I'm sure I have. Because I want to know where it's going to go. There's things like, even in a device, there's lots of things at the moment that are all about making sure that the right user is making the transaction, the right human being is making the transaction from a safe, secure device, EDR, endpoint detection response, identity providers, mobile threat security, iOS machine identities. All those are in the identity pieces for multiple different types of devices. Inside of the transactional, we have web application firewalls, or WAFs. That's transactional data going outbound from the applications out to the internet, because we allow access to those services inside of our networks. Do we need to have that in SSE inside of our transactional controls? Machine learning DLP, XDR, understanding extended detection and response, looking at all of those different streams of communication, all of them, normalizing it, correlating all of them, and understanding where the threats are going, what's happening, and then plugging into all those different services to prevent that threat in real time. Understanding breach defenses. If I can see all of that traffic in line and what traffic's going out, should that be embedded into the system as well? And then things like the ICS historically, most organizations have heavily focused on the corporate world, but a lot of our customers do have a significant amount of IoT or OT infrastructure. Does that mean they have to have two systems? Are we going to have an SSE for, corporate users and then a similar type of service for my IoT or OT services? Or are we going to converge this? Are we going to consolidate this? I think that's a really interesting question to talk about. Things like NDR, network detection and response. This is plugging in and having scans of my network and understanding what traffic flows across multiple different areas, not just north-south, but east-west traffic as well, and then being able to respond and remove and remediate any erroneous or malicious traffic or malicious activity on the network. Should that be part of the SSE capability as well? Because it's network traffic, it's still transactional, and we're talking about ourselves as network as a service components. Is that something we should be doing? And then there's multiple different things for sanitizing our applications. It could be encryption, building them to application standards, passwordless security, and then of course vulnerability, firewall vulnerability management. And then finally, there's this at-rest piece. This is the interesting one. I think that we're just doing so much work in AWS, and it's expanding all the time, that what you can do in infrastructure as a service. So having the ability to secure workloads, provide end-to-end visibility, and then maybe segment it is something that is being done at the moment by CWPP. Is that something that should be taken on by the SSE or Security Service Edge as well, so I don't have to have multiple products? Because the problem with having multiple products, the reason we want to converge, is because I don't want my teams, my security teams, going out, continuously assessing these applications, and then having to procure it in multiple different locations, spend time configuring them to meet my security standards, and then recognizing that if I've got multiple different point solutions, they're not all, they don't all have the same capabilities to apply controls, especially when it comes to things like data protection and data visibility. So I don't want to have to do this in multiple places. I want to have them together so that I can then provide really valuable detection and response capabilities. So that's why we want to try to converge it. So this is a thought exercise that I'd love to run through with you. You see all these different capabilities that we've got out here that I've listed. I'm going to run through some, and I'm going to ask why I think some of these should be converging with the Security Service Edge in time. So this is future consolidation or convergence inside of SSE. It is just my opinion. These are just thoughts. I'd love to hear yours as well, because it's really your problems that are going to drive what goes into these products. I think that's what we have to realize. These technologies only come about because we have to meet the needs of your industries. So it's up to you to go, no, this is something that will be important. We will need this. And then we can start to build those technologies to meet those requirements. So I'm going to list them at the end as likelihoods. Just my opinion, likely, maybe, or unlikely. But you can tell me I'm crazy, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. So the first one I put in here is automated DLP classification using AI and machine language. So this is where inline, a system can scan the contents of a document to determine its sensitivity to your organization and apply corresponding organization classification labels to the document's metadata. We'll actually embed metadata, the GUID, into that document for you. Why would it be important? Well, data protection programs are notoriously hard. They're very tricky to do because you have to go to the business and say, what do you think is important? And then it becomes really hard if you then ask some of those employees of those different business units to say, could you classify the data so that you can tell me what your boss thinks is sensitive? It's riddled with the problems. And I don't know if we can have confidence that the users are going to be delivering this and doing this for us to understand what's important to the business. And that's just the amount of data that's being created is exploding. There's just so much of it at the moment. It's hard for anyone to really try and keep up with and understand what the business wants to protect and what it isn't interested in, especially when there's lots of different business areas accessing the same information. So it could be important to say, well, why don't I have this transactional data scanned, and then we're going to look at the sensitivity, have those built-in DLP capabilities, the industry regional specific data identifiers that we spoke about, those AI and machine learning engines to understand what a merger and acquisition document is, even if it's in your own corporate format. You've got your own formats, but we'll be able to look at that and go, yes, that's a merger and acquisition. That's an NDA file. That's a patent. That's stock purchasing information. There's loads of classifications that we have actually built that we could start to say that's going to be this level of sensitivity, and then apply your labels to that. So I think that's really interesting. Why it might not happen? Well, it does rely on us being accurate. You can't just start stopping information flowing when the business is trying to make money. So it can be, you have to rely on accurate machine learning algorithms, and then building up specific classifications for your specific organization. Still requires someone in the business to know what would be important or not. So is it NDAs? Is it merger and acquisitions? These kind of things are still important. You still have policies to apply, but having the ability to apply that would be important. And also, you can always allow the traffic to go through in the beginning just to see and assess this. So I actually don't think these are too much of a roadblock at the moment. I think that this is something that we could probably do. And I know that actually Netscope is actually going to have this in the product by the end of the year, which is really impressive. And I'm really, for one, looking forward to it, because I know that this is a challenge that organizations are facing at the moment to be able to classify that data. Endpoint DLP. So what would that endpoint DLP? Well, we're talking about transactions of moving up and down out to the internet. Well, we still need to apply consistent DLP controls to the data moving from the device to other locations, not just the web and the cloud. These are USBs and removable media, print spoolers, network locations. They're still transactional. And historically, you'd have to have then an endpoint DLP client or agent sitting on the device next to a Netscope or SSE client. So we've got a transactional one, and then you've got an endpoint one. And I think that's why it's important. It's, you don't really want to be having multiple technologies to deliver a consistent data protection program. You can end up with gaps, because if your endpoint DLP doesn't have the same robust controls that Netscope has, then how can you have confidence that you're going to be able to protect the data moving to USBs? It's important that those things are consistent. And you also want to have a single place to go to apply, to apply policies and understand where data is moving. Who's being that risky individual to move data around, whether it's to a USB device or to his personal Dropbox account. So having that place to go to look at your data in transit, your data in rest inside your cloud apps via those APIs, and on the endpoint would be really, really important for an organization to deliver a robust data protection program. Now, why it might not happen? Well, SSE is known for providing visibility to inline or data at rest external traffic, not really known for having something on the endpoint. We don't do endpoint malware, so why would we do endpoint DLP? Endpoint DLP is often very resource intensive because you have to have multiple services to then apply those DLP policies on the device to look at what's happening on the USB. If you start wanting to apply machine learning and AI engines on your USB port, do I have to download all of those engines to the endpoint and slow it down? That's not going to be working. You're not going to want to trade off performance for security, or your users don't. So that would be a real problem. One of the thought processes to get around this is actually, well, maybe you don't do any of the heavy lifting on the device itself. Instead, when a user moves that file to a USB, you can actually pause the transaction and send a copy of the file up to the cloud to scan it against your consistent policies. And then if it gets a yes, a signal gets sent back down to the endpoint DLP to say, yeah, that's allowed, and allow that sending. And because uploads and downloads of traffic is now very quick, the internet's fairly fast, the actual what we see is not any real knock-on performance or speed of transaction. So that's actually a really interesting way of doing things. And because of that, I think that this is very likely to happen, because the SSE has to have data protection at its core. And this is just one of those areas that currently organizations are not thinking about, or other vendors are not thinking about. I actually know that Netscope's coming out with this very shortly. So I think that that's really important to think about. Next one is a bit of a curlier one. So NDR, network detection and response. So it's all about providing visibility into the known and unknown threats that are across your network. So usually you put a tap on the network that can take in all of those different feeds to provide centralized understanding around what is happening, and then provide responses so that we can then actually stop connections and stop workflows, making it nice and easy for you to understand where the threats are and respond to them really quickly. Why would it be important? Well, physical on-premise networks are still there. We haven't disappeared, and they have identities and destination applications that are still sitting in those, within inside the perimeter firewall, and it's still transactional. It's going across east to west, right? So that would be important. And threats can reside inside the network, moving between devices that don't have an SSE endpoint installed, so you couldn't do any understanding of what's happening there. So it would require some kind of detection and response. I think that could be important. So why it might not happen? Well, network visibility and response actually might be better served not by the SSE, but by that the WAN edge service. It's actually WES, but to the WAN component of that, network as a service rather than the security as a service. Even though security controls aren't really outlined in that at the moment. But I just think because it's a networking tool and it's sending all that traffic, it might be better served by that service. It would also require network taps, which is not something that's historically done by an SSE to ingest logs. And also that east-west traffic, it's a lot of data to be processing in the cloud. And if it's something that might not necessarily be done by us, maybe we have that done by the WAN service edge, and that can then send that traffic to Netscope or to the SSE. So I don't really think that that's something that would be done by the SSE at the moment, that security service edge. So that's really interesting. And I think that, at the moment, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you think about that. But instead of having network detection response, I think the extended detection and response might be a better fit. This is collecting and automatically correlating data across those multiple layers. That sounds more like the SSE now, whether it's email, endpoint, server, multiple ports and protocols, web, cloud application, network traffic, send all of this to one place for, again, that faster detection of threats, improved investigation and response time through the security analysis. We're already seeing a lot of this information already because there's a lot of transactional data. That's why it might be important. We're already inspecting traffic across a lot of this and applying policies across a lot of this transactional traffic across all protocol types with that cloud firewall or firewall as a service. So it kind of makes sense that we just add extensive correlation across these traffic types to understand what threats and risky traffic is occurring, so that we can reduce investigation and dwell time there. Why it might not happen? Well, XDR would involve all of those transactional logs to be monitored and viewed and correlated, which is a lot of hard work and would take up a lot of space in cloud services. But space in the cloud, I mean, I don't know if that's something that is going to be, something that we should worry about. It's the cloud. It should be able to grow as required. That's why we have them in the cloud. And And it would, of course, require proper AI and machine learning capabilities, because it's not about known threats. This is a lot of unknown threats and zero-day threats. So using AI and machine learning on this transactional and the correlation of this traffic would make sense. I mean, it's kind of the only way that you'd be able to do this. But because we've got all of that a lot of that visibility, and it may just take the inclusion of the CWPP information and the NDR information, I think, and we've got those AI, we've got extensive AI and machine learning built into our security service edge at the moment. I actually think this is something that is most likely going to occur. I don't know if it's roadmapped or anything at the moment. I just think that this is something that would most likely be best served by your security service edge as well. Inline email security. So it wasn't listed in Gartner's requirements as the for SSE, security service edge, but it's an interesting one. So email security is a different techniques to keeping sensitive information in your email communication, SMTP traffic, port 45. So and securing accounts against unauthorized access, compromises. Emails are used to spread malware, there's spam, there's phishing attacks, and we want to make sure that those emails don't, aren't being sent out containing sensitive information, and nasty ones aren't coming in. So why would it be important for the security service edge? Well, we are viewing transactional traffic, and email is definitely transactional traffic that's going in and out of the network. It does go left, east, west as well, but it does make sense that we would be doing this, and especially if we're using a lot of cloud applications to deliver this, Gmail or Exchange Online, kind of makes sense that we can provide some visibility there. So it's just an extended protocol. We've already got cloud firewalls. We're doing all ports and protocols. I know that SMTP requires additional capabilities, but I think it just would make sense to deliver on this here. And also, email is a significant channel for data loss. So again, if we're talking about having a comprehensive data protection program delivered from a single source of SSE, security service edge, email is definitely that channel that we want to be adding into that, so we can have centralized policies for data protection on SMTP. Why might it not happen? Well, I mean, email security vendors have been specializing in email detection for a long time, and there's lots of additional capabilities that might be required that get just currently unknown to security service edge vendors. So DMARC analyzers, phishing detection, DKIM checking. There's a lot of extra bits and pieces, bells and whistles that we don't do. Spam filtering is also extensive. It's like 95% of your email traffic is spam. That's before we do anything else, just make sure that gets rid of. So maybe that is going to be a challenge as well. And also security awareness is a hugely integrated part of the email security. And we don't have security awareness programs in SSE. We do have the coaching, which I think integrates. So maybe that's actually part of why it should be in SSE as well. It's kind of an interesting double-edged sword. And also maybe because we're using so many collaboration tools, I'm guessing you guys collaborate a lot on Microsoft Teams and Slack, maybe more so to communicate with your internal staff than you would do with your over email now. And so much of this is just done over these collaboration tools, and maybe there's just no need for email, and the amount of email is being reduced significantly. That said, I don't think it's going to go away. Email's here to stay for the foreseeable future, and it is transactional traffic. Data protection is really important, and we do have security awareness inside of by coaching. So I think that this is definitely something that would be really valuable inside of the SASE or SSE capability. But again, love to hear your thoughts on that. Okay, next one is really interesting. WAF, Web Application Firewall. So WAFs protect web applications. So your web applications, you're going to be using these and apply a variety of application layer attacks or controls against those application layer attacks. There's multiple different controls, but it's just maybe really just protecting the data that sits inside of those applications and the integrity of those systems from breaches and from attacks. So why could that be important to the web application firewall? Well, it's still transactional traffic. We think of it as user to destination, but it would be from an external party and our internal applications. So we're seeing the traffic go from the application out to this unknown source or customer or some other entity as they're accessing these tools. So it's transactional, so it kind of almost makes sense. And SSEs do deliver things like reverse proxy as part of CASB capabilities. So we do look at application to and to user traffic, that reverse transaction. And we have cloud firewalls. So most firewalls do think that a lot of customers do think of the firewall and the WAF as being very similar. So it kind of makes sense to monitor this traffic. Why it might not happen? Well, increasingly more and more WAF services are being hosted inside of infrastructure as a service that do offer their own application security controls. So if they're sitting inside of the your AWS, maybe I've got a web server that sits inside of AWS, that makes sense, and they're going to have their own application security controls. So maybe the need for a WAF is like going out to procure one is being reduced, and instead what you might do is have like your cloud security posture management, making sure that everything is configured correctly instead. So you're just monitoring that the configuration of these systems are being done instead. WAF protected services are being moved from DMZs into internal and to the internal network, and then could be accessed via clientless ZTNA. That could be done. So if you've got systems inside of the network, they're not in the DMZ anymore. They could be inside of like an internal network, and then they're just a private application. So you could do this via zero trust network access. That could be one way of doing it. So you don't need the WAF anyway. You're just making sure that because it's inside the network, it's not in the DMZ anymore. And it's just also the amount of information that you're looking at, because all of that variety of application-led attacks is significant. So a lot of data, again, has to be consumed by this SSE technology just to filter out erroneous data. And it's not about the connections my users are making, it's everything else going outbound. And it is a lot of information to be scanning through. So on this one, I'm kind of on the fence. I don't know. I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on this. I've said a maybe because I think that most of them are being installed in infrastructure as a service. So that's really, so that's really interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay, don't know why that's done that. Let's do this. And so ICS, that's for input, IoT and OT systems. It's a collective term used to describe lots of different control systems and associated instrumentation, which includes devices, systems, and networks and controls used to operate industry processes, industrial stuff. This is no longer like the laptops. This is when you've got ATMs or POS systems or other services in your network that are all connecting, and they might be manufacturing plants, SCADA systems, the variety of different tools. These things, they're all connecting as well. So it's super important that we have visibility into this. It's really important because there's a hugely diverse set of native OS environments. There was no standards to this. They were all just built things, manufacturing plants, doing their own things and creating operating systems that just meant that they were able to deliver on the capabilities that they needed to. But so there's no standard way of detecting this stuff, and why that's important, because it would be good to have a single place to look at it. Also means why it might be really hard and not something we can do. But the ability to ingest those logs from OT systems would provide context into risky behaviors and transactions for critical infrastructure. I mean, it's critical stuff. I mean, it could be energy plants. It could be any part of critical governmental infrastructure, that we need to have visibility into those systems. Who's accessing it? What weird things are being sent out through these systems? It could be trains. Multiple different trains are connecting up to the big cloud network in AWS, and I want to see that the signals from those trains are correct and going to the right places and are not erroneous. So it's rather than having a separate network for those systems, it would kind of make sense that we could embed this into SSE as well. So I don't want to have separate security controls for on-premise and SSE, because it's kind of counterintuitive to the direction of consolidation and convergence. So I want to try and keep it all together. Why it might not happen? Well, creating an endpoint for all of those different diverse operating systems is going to be really difficult, because you've got to plug into that operating system. It's not a Mac or a Windows system, is it? These are all specific to those environments. And a lot of those are also designed to be on-premise, right? They were designed not to have an outbound connection. Just somebody goes in, gets to the console, work. So you have to be retrofitting it, use a Raspberry Pi to send the traffic out to this cloud system. So there's a lot of retrofitting, and it just requires the SSE to be thinking, it's not about like sending out credit card information to my corporate Dropbox anymore. This is different. That said, I think it will, but not for a long time. I think this is something that, will most likely be something that we think about and may well go this way, because I don't think, grand scheme of things, we want to have two networks, one for OT and IoT and one for IT systems. We want to have them consolidated. It'll just require a bit of time to get there. But again, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Next is my favorite, cloud workload protection platform. I think this is really interesting, and it's an area that I'm still trying to learn a lot about because I don't know enough about it. But microsegmentation in the cloud from endpoints to the data center. And that's what we're going to talk about with this piece. Why it's important? Well, you have agent-based transactional visibility and segmentation to address unique requirements of server workload protection. So inside of your cloud systems, you've got multiple different workloads. It's sitting inside there, you've got these multiple different endpoints and environments are connecting to them. And when we see certain risky connections across those multiple different workloads inside of the inside those applications, I may want to segment it. This connection has to stop. I'm going to segment this network. We used to have segmentation in our old networks, so it would be useful to have this type of capability, especially when you've got multiple different cloud services and environments. And it's kind of complementary to the existing cloud security posture management. It's mostly deployed. I mean, there is the agent-based, but then there is APIs that connect to your cloud infrastructure. So it almost starts by making the connection via API into those systems, then deploying the agent to see what people are doing inside of those applications. And when you've got data and transactions connecting between those different workloads, and there's different components inside the application, inside of your infrastructure, we can then segment it and block off any risky activity. So I think that would be quite useful. It's transactional, getting visibility. It might require client creation for IoT services. Again, this is very similar for the consistent within the IoT issues that we've got. There's lots of different IoT systems. So how do we plug into those environments that are not standard Windows or Mac is interesting. Because again, it's a lot of those environments are, it could be an ATM is connecting into the bank payroll system that has lots of different workloads. So you don't kind of want to have visibility, but those systems don't run on Windows. So we need to figure out, how do we create a client that connects into those applications on those weird little operating systems. And that client would require transactional traffic to then be correlated within the cloud host application itself. I mean, I think that's possible, to be really honest. And it has to plug into the endpoint firewall, because one of the segmentation components of a CWPP is to then say, hey, this application is behaving mischievously. I'm going to segregate this and prevent any inbound traffic. Now, the SSCs at the moment don't talk to the endpoint, don't talk to the client firewall, the endpoint firewall at all. Instead, what they do is that we have a cloud firewall, so maybe we could do this, but it's a slightly different way of thinking. So it's kind of a little trickier, but I definitely think that this is something that's going to happen, because this is all about making sure that our systems are configured and protected at rest. It's transactional, as well. So it's the network piece as a service. And we've already got the endpoints. I think that this is something that would be really valuable for an SSE platform. Then finally, the CWPP workload container security, the ability to provide visibility into all the applications and resources inside your cloud infrastructure to allow policies to meet your industry compliance standards. It's important it expands the capability of the existing CSPM to ensure that all resources are robust and secure. As I said, like the amount of things that you do in infrastructure as a service, it is not just S3 buckets and EC2 servers anymore. There are hundreds of different things. And we need to have visibility into how each of them are configured, who is accessing them, who's doing certain things in them. So it's almost an expansion of what's already there. It also supports M&A and scalability without a loss of visibility. So what we mean is, like, as organizations grow and you start new applications and projects inside of different infrastructures and different environments, cloud infrastructure environments, we want to be able to see that immediately and be able to respond. So I think that that's really important. What might not happen? It's large development in different language supports. There's just so much going on. There just is an increased amount, but I think it's important. I think we'll do it. I think that has to be done in the SSE. So is that the last one? Perfect. Got through a lot. So what we've done here is we can start to see how we're getting some consolidation here, and we've moved some of that. I've ignored the destination stuff. That's all about making sure that your apps are developed. That's up to you guys who are developing applications. That's fine. But I do think that this SSE could start to have automated DLP classifications, endpoint DLP, XDR is super important. We're seeing all of this traffic moving. So I think that that'd be really interesting to see how we could expand on our ability to detect threats and risky traffic movement and respond to it effectively. Email is just another traffic and transactional traffic. That should be bundled in my opinion. Having IoT industry control systems, which is essentially all of this just for IoT, I think that should be done in the center. That makes sense. Logically, it makes sense to do it here. And then WAF, I mean, maybe. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But this application's going out to the internet, so it's visibility. It's a different type of reverse traffic visibility. But I think logically, it kind of makes sense to do it here as well. From the at rest, I think the ability to do segmentation and additional container workload security within your CWPP should be bundled into your SSA capability. And I put NDR in here as part of the SD-WAN, but this is just my opinion. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of where things are going in the next 5-10 years as we continue down this cloud journey. Because what we do know is the way that we have, the digital transformation is not going to reverse back. The caterpillar is now a butterfly. We are, now going to be working in this cloud world, and that's why we have this new capability of SASE, these new security controls, these new network connectivity capabilities, the WAN service edge, these new security capabilities of SSE, and they've been consolidated into a single component. But anyway, I think I've taken up enough of your time. I would love to hear your thoughts. I'm sure there's questions and thoughts in the chat. So please let me know how we want to do this. Okay. I don't know if anyone wants to jump in. Otherwise, I'll just answer some of these questions. Or
Great, Michael. Great session. It is like 10 minutes over, right? So, but again, I did not want to interrupt you because session is one of the best that we have had on our platform. So really appreciate you sharing your knowledge with the community. Go ahead, guys. If you want to ask questions, raise your hand. We will take about 2 to 3 questions because we don't have much time and we are running little late today. So sorry. No problems at all, Michael. Great session. So, Gayatri, go ahead, please unmute Mr. Anil, yep. Saurabh, and Anagar. And Prabhav as well. So we'll just take 4 questions. And quick question and quick answer, please. It should not be, right? Go ahead, Anil, unmute yourself, ask your question. moving to Saurabh. Saurabh, go ahead. Unmute yourself, please.
Yes, sure. Yeah, hi, Michael. This is Saurabh.
Hey,
Yeah,
sorry.
thanks for an insightful session. My only question over here is that, you projected it right that, how the structure should be. But right now, if I talk about, everybody is talking about micro segmentation as the second leg on top of what, we have already built in terms of XDRs, the DLPs. And second is that, how do you see convergence of all those tools to one platform? Because managing multiple tools is one thing for sure. And I do understand that everybody cannot have the same kind of a bracket of, the best of the tools to be deployed. But managing by this, the security teams on ground is also becoming a challenge. So the second thing which is coming in the industry is that how can we have a converged solution where most of these things can be coming from one? So that's another challenge which, most of our fraternity is facing right now. So wanted to take your thoughts on those two pieces.
So I think you have a great power. I think the customer, the people in the industry don't realize the power they have. There's a lot of change happening with these vendors, and they're all trying to think of what's the most important thing to do as well, wherever it's going. So my advice to you is speak to your vendors that do similar capabilities. Maybe they've got part of it, they don't have all of it. Netscope's got some of this stuff. We don't have all of it. Go speak to your account rep and challenge them and say, we're going to need this, and I want it converged. I want it in the same platform. You can do this, and there's dollars on the table. It's a license uplift, and then it's easy to go. But the vendor has to develop that for you. So I think that use that muscle. There's so much change happening. It's important to speak to them. But at the moment, you're just going to have to go with the top areas of concern for your organization and meet those challenges.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Anagatji, please go ahead, ask your question.
Yeah. Hi, Michael. Very informative session. Thank you for that. I'll have a quick question. Is in one of our companies, we have implemented actually a Netscope, CASB, and SWG. Now, when I saw your presentation, I saw between endpoints and the SWG, you had the SD-WAN. I couldn't understand. We haven't implemented. Is that a necessity today, or
no? Look, nothing's a necessity. Look, SD-WAN is just something that we're seeing a lot of from our organizations, because they want they've got lots of branch offices and they don't want everything to be sent to the headquarters and then back up. So they're saying, well, certain traffic can go internal and some of it's going to go external to the Netscope cloud. So SD-WAN is not something that Netscope offers. It is an integration point from Netscope's perspective if you require it. If not, that is fine. You just send the traffic, you can just deploy the Netscope client. That's absolutely fine from us. That's the most common deployment mechanism within Netscope is just deploy the Netscope client. But if you've got certain infrastructure or services that can't have a client, or even guest networks, you can't ask all your guests to install a Netscope client. So their IPsec GRE tunnels are really useful for steering that traffic, or SD-WAN if you've got lots and lots of different locations.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. I think that was the last question. Other gentlemen lowered down the hand, so that's okay. I think let's go ahead with the Kahoot quiz. There was, great insights shared by Michael today. I'm sure you guys would have taken good notes. Let's get into the Kahoot quiz. I am doing this Kahoot quiz for the very first time. I don't know how it works. If it messes up, we'll have to address, right? We'll have to see how we can manage it. So guys, I'm clicking on play. You see my screen, right? Can somebody confirm?
Yes.
Cool. I'm clicking on play now and go to present. Let's see. So you guys know how to play Kahoot, right? Go to kahoot.it, and then this will generate a number or a game pin that you will have to enter. And when you put your name, guys, put your first name, last name, dash your company name. If you if you put random name, we are not able to figure out who the winner is. So put your first name, space, last name, dash your company name. And the pin right now that you see on the screen is 7181413. I'm putting it on the chat as well. Go to kahoot.it and put this game pin. And I am putting it on the chat as well. And we have how many? 29, 30, 35 people joining in. Looks good so far. We will wait till 100 people to join and then we'll start. 6 questions, 2 multiple choice questions as well. Everything around the session that Michael delivered. All is from the session itself. 94 people right now, 99, 103. Okay, guys, I'm clicking on start now. Okay, 1, 2, 3, start. Great. First question. What is in the magic quadrant Gartner is releasing that will replace CASP and SWG, software defined gateway? A lot of answers are coming in. That's great. 45, 50, 60. That's an easy one, right? Cool. 82 right answers. Very nice. Very nice. Next. So Nitin is on the top. Again, Nitin, I don't know. You're Nitin Arora, Nitin Sharma. You did not put your company name. So we are not sure. Okay, going to the next question now. What are the key components of SASE or SSE? Great, lot of questions. 105 questions are already in. Okay, 78 have got it right. Perfect. Let's see the scoreboard now. Pankaj Puri _net. Okay, little better.
Lots of change. Lots of change at the top.
Yeah, it's changed now. Let's see. Okay, let's go to the third question. Let's see. The question is, what is the estimated expected growth of data creation in the organization by 2025? 30 times, 300 times, 3.5 times, 0.3 times. $117, 18. Good going, guys.
Oh, I don't know if I said this one. Sorry, I was meant to talk about that. Sorry.
That's okay. It's still 87.
Okay. I spoke about so much. But yeah, that is an interesting fact. I think there's just so much data creation. We were expecting a 3.5 times the amount of data created in 2025. So it's a lot of data. We need AI.
Yeah, top position remains the same. That's awesome. And Austin is coming to the second one. Rahul Goel, IOC. Wonderful, guys. Next question coming up now. What is the name given by Gartner to the other key component of SASE that will be getting its own magic quadrant for network as a service? I had to shorten it because there is a length of question that you can put in Kahoot. So I had to make some adjustment over there. Great. 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 113 answers already in. Awesome, 79 right answers. Let's see the scoreboard now. Okay, so first 3 remain same. Very nice. Ravi Singh has gone up. Okay, let's see. Let's get the next question. It's a multi-select question, guys. What are the key technology capabilities that may be included in SASE in future? For sure, waffle making machine, branded and imported from Belgium. Very easy one. Nobody should get it wrong. Come on, guys. But that never happens. Oh boy, come on, guys. You can't do it.
16 just want the waffle making machine.
That's how it is.
I'll speak to my product management.
Seriously, that's a good business idea, maybe. Okay, Rahul Goel is first now. Very nice. Oh, the entire board has changed except Austin. Hacker Samvi, hacker guy, I'm sorry for you if you win. We don't know who you are. Okay, clicking next. This one is the last question. Again, multiple select. Best starting point on a journey to SASE to start with the next generation SWG. What 3 technologies should this consolidate? lot of answers coming in. 89, 90, good. 100 answers. 4 seconds, 3 seconds to go. Oh, pretty good. 95 got it right. Okay, let's see the final scoreboard now. And Sumit Guha, very nice, Sumit. Sumit recently became our member. That's wonderful. Austin second, and the first one is Rahul Goyal, IOCL. Very nice, guys. Congratulations. Send me a DM, send me a WhatsApp, and then I will connect you with Netscope. Your gift hamper will be delivered. Perfect. That's about the Kahoot quiz. Now, guys, if you want to download your participation certificate, what you can do is go to Elite CISO's website, click on events, click on upcoming events. You will come to this page. Click on CPE certificate. When you click on CPE certificate, you will come to a page something like this. Put your full email address where you want the certificate, put your full name, and the answer or the secret to download the certificate is SASE. Once you submit it, you will get a certificate something like this over your email. Okay. Now, once you are here to download the participation certificate, you might want to early register for next week's session as well that we are doing with ForcePoint. So as I said in the beginning that every week on Thursday, we do these technology sessions. So next week, 11 o'clock, we are partnering with ForcePoint. We will talk about how in a remote working environment, how do you secure your workforce? So first 100 people to register for it will be put in a raffle for Amazon Alexa. That's not Apple AirPods, right? Apple AirPods we saved for this very exclusive session and it has went very nice. So go ahead, guys, register for it. Just simply click on register now. It will take you to a different page and you can register over there. Now, last but not the least that everybody is kind of waiting for is the Wheel of Fortune. Okay. The giveaway is Apple AirPods. We have put everyone who registered in this raffle. It is not for first 100 only. So you see 189 entries over here. Why 189? Anybody who registered with Gmail, you know, Yahoo or Rediff Mail or Hotmail, we have removed all of those entries. It has to be a business email ID to be eligible to be in this Wheel of Fortune. Okay, guys, good luck. I'm going to run it. And if your name comes, go to the chat and say yes, that you are there. Okay. Running it now, guys. Okay, so the lucky winner is Kamal Gurnani, Rix Pro. Very nice. Awesome, Kamalji. And this is the second AirPod which is going to Mr. Kamal. He has won it in the past as well. Amazing, amazing. Congratulations, Kamalji. Go to the chat and type yes if you are there. I don't see Mr. Kamal as yet. Did anybody see Mr. Kamal? Did anybody, Mr. Kamal, type yes? No. Sanjeev ji, I know you are there. I'm just reading the chat. I'm going to spin it one more time, guys. Okay. Hard luck. I'll inform Mr. Kamal that, okay, you lost it. Mr. Vishal from Axiom. Mr. Vishal, if you're there, go to the chat and type yes. I don't see Mr. No, hard luck, guys. I'm running it one more time. Okay, this is the last time. If you are not there, I will keep the AirPod. Let's see. Akhil, I am so happy for you. Akhil is from Bangalore chapter. He is very active individual, very fit individual. Awesome, Akhil. Great. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you. Wonderful. Great. That's about it, guys. Thanks a lot for taking your time out on Saturday. Sorry, we got a little late, 15 minutes late today, but again, it was amazing session. Thanks for joining. Thanks, Netscope team. And thanks, Michael. Amazing, amazing session you delivered. One last thing, a lot of people ask about the recording. So recording will be available if you go to Elite CISO's website, go to events, go to past event section. And within maybe a week's time, we will put the recording and slides over here. You see that all the previous recordings are also here. You can simply just click on play and you will go to YouTube channel, and that's where the recordings are available. So that is the last thing I wanted to mention. With this, thank you very much, everyone. Go ahead, enjoy your weekend. Thanks.